UN report on Iraq has sent the Congress party into a bit of a crisis. It sent the External Affairs Minister Natwar Singh into a bit of a crisis. Where is the nation poised at the present point? What is going to be the full fallout of the Volcker report? That's the subject of the big fight, and over the course of the next 1 hour you're going to be hearing many of the participants in this entire case talking to us here. Let me just introduce our panelists. Abhishek Manu Singhvi is joining us, spokesperson of the Congress party. He's going to be speaking, I assume, on behalf of both the Congress party and Natwar Singh, but we'll get that clear in a minute or two. Arun Jaitley is joining us from Patna, where he's been campaigning. The election campaign, of course, is in full swing, but he's going to be joining us from there. Swapan Das Gupta, one of the senior most journalists in the country, is also joining us to give his views. And Surjit Bhalla, well-known economist, analyst, political thinker as well. He is with us, and Mr. N. Ram is going to be joining us from Chennai in just a minute or two. But before we go any further, a quick look at some of the major news headlines at the present moment.
Thanks, Vikram. Let's just update you on the headlines. Let's get back now to the big fight.
Right, so those are some of the headlines. Time now for the first punch. Abhishek Singhvi, let me get you to deliver the first punch, or at least shield the first punch. And the punches have been coming from all sides, haven't they? The Congress party named, Natwar Singh, External Affairs Minister, named. The party itself seems to have come out with a somewhat confused response, if it can be said, that talk of a legal notice to the United Nations. Then we're not very sure they were giving the legal notice or not. Just what is your stance at the present moment?
The problem with today's world is that we live in a media world where you require responses.
Is that a
yesterday.
problem? I thought it's a great thing.
It's also a problem because you tend to require a response 2 minutes before the actual event occurs. And it's a very quick bite response. Consider the facts. I speak for the Congress party. That doesn't mean I don't speak for Mr. Natwar Singh. There are several points common, but I speak for the Congress party, and whatever points are common apply to him as well. This is pure sensationalism. You must convict, you must inquire, you must punish. But at least do not suspend your powers of logic and belief without facts.
Who's suspending the powers of logic?
A lot of people, including a desperate opposition, looking for issues. Let me complete. Here is a thousands of pages report. Not a single word about the Congress party on a single paragraph of a single page. In a table, the name appears. Not a single document, not a single recorded evidence about the Congress party. Very well. The first thing we do is we ask Mr. Volcker and the UN, please supply us any information, document or evidence which you recorded. If you don't supply it to us within a reasonable time, you must apologize. If you do supply it to us, we will then consider the contours and the nature of a legal inquiry or a legal action.
All right, fine. Now let me get the aforementioned desperate opposition. Arun, I think he's referring to you.
Well, not to you personally, but certainly.
Well, I think the government is in a desperate situation. I'd hate to be in government in such a situation. And it's ludicrous that the Congress party chooses to call the opposition desperate. Now, what are the facts? Fact one, that for support given to the Iraqi cause and depending on the degree of opposition to the sanctions, the Saddam Hussein regime, in violation of the UN sanctions and the prefixed price of the UN, started issuing oil coupons to friends. Fact two, it is now alleged in the Volcker report through the schedule that the Congress party and Mr. Natwar Singh were issued these coupons and they were the non-contractual beneficiaries. Okay. Fact three, the oil was purchased by a Swiss company called Massfield. Fact four, for the oil purchased by Massfield, a close family friend of Mr. Natwar Singh and his son and his company, that is Hamdan, a company controlled by Mr. Sehgal, is depositing the monies in the Bank of Jordan against the contract numbers which are the Congress party and the Natwar Singh contracts. Now it's the Congress party and Mr. Sehgal and their friends who should be doing a lot of explanation. Abhishek is right when he says the matter should be inquired into, but you have a Prime Minister who instead of inquiring into the matter chooses to give a clean chit on day one.
Let's look at Arun's fact 1 to 4 immediately. Please tell me the Congress party doesn't have eyes, ears, hands. It's an entity. Please tell me
that statement, or is that a rhetorical
question? Of course, it's
question?
an entity. It's not a human being.
Okay.
Who received the coupons for the Congress party? When? How much? Where? Not a single detail. Because a foreign committee, let me complete. Let me give you 2 minutes at least. When a foreign person makes an allegation, there is no evidence that that allegation was ever inquired into. We were given notice. Our point of view was considered. Nothing. Yesterday he says that we gave a notice. I'd like to ask Mr. Volcker, the matter can be made in 2 seconds. Please produce the notice which you sent to the Congress party. What is the date of the notice? To whom was it sent?
Okay.
Now, the allegation Mr. Arun Jaitley makes just now does not give you any clue as to when, how, what the Congress party received. Certainly we must inquire into it, but should the whole country be destabilized by an atmosphere of suspicion because a person not following elementary canons of natural justice, not following fair play, not following any notice, writes a report and doesn't furnish any material? Where is the material?
I don't want to enter into a slugfest between two lawyers, but just as a matter of initial thing, it seems to be that at one time in school and college we were taught that imperialism was all about profit. From the Volcker report, we can gauge that anti-imperialism is also very profitable. You see, Mr. Natwar Singh says this report is outrageous, a view which is echoed by Manu Singhvi here. I think we in the country have also very great reasons to be outraged by the fact that our foreign minister's name appears twice, that the name of the Congress party appears once in the annexures, and it's all given to complete brazen denials. I mean, deny, talk about anti-imperialism, talk about the collapse of the Soviet Union, talk about everything except the charges. These are very, very substantive charges.
I haven't talked of anti-imperialism, I haven't talked of Soviet Russia. I am asking you, before you damn somebody, will you produce a single fact or will you go gaga because of sensationalism and an opposition or immediately punishing somebody?
Mr. Singhvi, are the bank receipts not included, that these have been corroborated?
Can I ask you, Mr.
Can you talk about table 5?
Can you produce a single bank receipt?
Yes,
can you produce a single bank receipt?
He's waving a sheet of papers. He's waving a sheet of paper.
This sheet of paper is actually the table which Mr. Singhvi referred to, where the Congress party's name is mentioned. It's 60 pages.
Okay.
It's not a small little table. It's an annexure, and it documents as to who got the money and from where on they got the records. It is from the Iraqi oil company which kept the records. Now, the interesting, sometime over this program, we can go into why did Iraq do this, why did the Congress party do this, and indeed,
the Congress party evidence is there. He's saying there's no evidence.
The Congress
party says there's no evidence.
Of course, yes, I've got it here. You can show it. The Congress party is interested. Let me finish.
Let me point out more than one table, one line of the Congress party. We are not there to defend. We are not here to defend.
One table, whether
no, we are not here to defend what Iraq did, what Saddam Hussein did, what 100 other countries or parties did. I am talking of the Congress party. Okay. I repeat, please, before you talk about it and go all over the press, should not Mr. Volcker produce an actual detail? Okay. Either in the text or elsewhere.
What is the
and what we have asked him is
you're saying you're holding the details in your hand. What are the details?
Let's see it. Would allow me to finish. I think all of his questions will be answered. And I think it's very important for the public to know, rather than it be a slugfest between any one of us, as to what the facts of the case are. And as Swapan, I'm very hesitant, because lawyers are supposed to talk about facts and argue about facts. As it turns out that this report, which is about 1,000 pages, there's 60 pages of this, there's, one thing the Congress party should feel happy about, that it is not the only political party in the oil trading business. There are several communist parties in the world, the Russian Communist Party in the world,
is the Congress party in the oil trading business?
Yes, this is oil trading. This is, let me finish.
Was the Congress party doing this at any stage or not? Let's get denied one by one.
Vikram, let me finish. Obviously, not only are we not in the oil trading business, it's one of the world's oldest parties, and yet till now I have not heard a single fact about the Congress party except a repetition of 60 pages, oil trading, Saddam Hussein, Iraq,
where's the evidence? Where's the fact?
None of which is the Congress party.
Look, let me just finish and then I will keep quiet. Okay?
We don't want you
but I want to echo what Mr. Singhvi said. I want to agree with him actually.
Okay.
That the media has sort of sensationalized this and really gone after Mr. Natwar Singh.
You think it should have gone after the Congress party?
Which I think is very, very unfair. Because precisely,
Natwar Singh be made a scapegoat.
In other words, no, Natwar Singh is an individual, and I can see individuals trying to make profit from certain opportunities, what Mr. Swapan Dasgupta calls anti-imperialism. But for political parties to venture into oil trading is something that has not been heard of until now.
All right, Arun, one part of it is, I mean, of course, Abhishek is saying there's no evidence that any of this was ever done. Should a political party, I mean, is that something that worries you? Should political parties be in any way into oil trading, as Surjit Bhalla says?
Well, I don't think the Congress party's regular business has been oil trading, but the Congress party had a history of doing a lot of greasy transactions. And this is just one of those transactions where for a particular diplomatic positioning that they took in India, as many other political groups in Russia, France and other places did take, there has been a certain payoff by way of these oil coupons. Now this is a great international scam, and this being a scam and Congress party being accused of this greasy business has to come out clean. They can come out clean with further.
I agree with him that the Congress party is not in the business of oil.
Oh, that part.
Yes.
Okay.
I also agree with him. I also agree with him.
I thought you were agreeing with his second statement.
I also agree with him. I also agree with him.
Agree with the part about
I also agree with him that as lawyers we should both look at a single fact which is there, which is still not pointed out, not in the report.
Okay,
but I also want to point out to him that the people who are in greasy business are those of his party who head the party, who are national presidents, who are caught in candid camera accepting money,
okay,
and those who are accused under 153A of the Indian Penal Code, who are deputy prime ministers, who are charge sheeted and continue in office.
All right.
That's certainly the tradition of BJP, not of the Congress.
Okay, we'll come to those in a minute or two. But Mr. Ram, Arun Jaitley was just saying the Congress party has a long history of such scandals. You, of course, very closely associated with one of those previous scandals, Bofors, which you really raised. You went after that entire issue. This time, you seem to be taking the line that it's different. Why? Why are you saying that this time it's different?
In fact, we were the newspaper which broke this story first. Nobody else seems to have picked up on Natwar Singh and the Congress. But on second look, there is a serious problem. There's a huge hole in the Volcker report, and I'm referring here to a basic violation of an investigative guideline. I have here the investigations guidelines, and 2G says, the lawyer should take a close look at it. Before the committee makes an adverse finding against any person or entity in a written report, such person or entity shall be informed of the proposed findings and the information upon which it is based, and may make representations thereon personally, etc. Now this elementary guideline has been violated. No notice has been served on Natwar Singh, on the Congress party, or indeed on Beam Singh, and we have it absolutely confirmed.
All right, Mr. Ram, let's just get some
secondly, there's another point, if you allow me half a minute.
So let's just go through this one point and then we'll come back to it.
I wouldn't like you to curtail him, because you've tried to have the scales a little more even by having him at least make an objective point. You've got three other people opposing me here. Two here, two there. But second point I want to make, under no canon of fair play, of natural justice, forget American law, forget Indian law, forget international law, under elementary commonsensical principles, when I want to hold anything against you, from a traffic offence to a murder charge, from a small civil offence to anything, the first and elementary thing you do is you disclose the material, you ask for a response, and then you give a finding. I have yet to come across this fantastic Mr. Volcker and his committee report of thousands of pages and not a single proceeding.
Okay,
so you can at best call it a conclusion before a proceeding.
Arun Jaitley, answer that point. Mr. Volcker says he sent a report to Mansfield. Obviously, the Congress party and Natwar Singh don't seem to have got it. And in fact, if Mr. Volcker says he didn't know till yesterday that Natwar Singh was the External Affairs Minister of the country, it's very strange as to where he would have sent the questionnaire in the first place, unless it was addressed to, I don't know, President of India, Natwar Singh, care of.
To me, from what I understood of Mr. Volker's statement yesterday, to the people named in the report, they seem to have had some proceeding of natural justice. But according to me, the Congress party cannot confuse it by just trying to trivialize the issue by bringing in procedural questions in view. The principal question involved in this case is, were oil coupons? Well, I think politicians love substantive facts. And substantive fact is, were there oil coupons in the name of the Congress party and Mr. Natwar Singh? Were payments made to the Bank of Jordan by a close family friend of Mr. Natwar Singh? And if these two facts are corroborated, I think there is a huge investigation which is required into the matter.
Let me answer Mr. Jaitley by asking a simple question. Where is the payment by or to the Congress party? If either Mr. Jaitley or Mr. Bhalla produce that, receipt, document, entry, passbook, detail, apart from merely talking of people travelling through Jordan, including delegations travelling through Jordan, because that's the only entry point to Baghdad, let them produce a single fact. I mean, we have to keep a sense of balance and logic.
I just want to point out what he said.
And by the way, the Supreme Court is the one which says that procedure is a matter of substance.
Okay, fine.
Procedure itself is a matter of substance.
Actually, Sujit, before I come to you, before I come to you, I have to take a break at this point. When we come back, we'll try and see if any of those facts are actually around. And also, is this procedural point as important as Mr. Ram says it is, or is it not? We'll come to those questions when we return in just a couple of report. Just where are we at the present moment? Now, we've been hearing a lot from all sorts of people. It's time now for us to hear from the man who's in a sense at the center of all of this, Mr. Natwar Singh, who has, of course, spoken exclusively to NDTV. We're going to be hearing from him in just a minute in Counterpunch. All right, Mr. Natwar Singh, what does he have to say about all of this? After keeping silent for a good 4 to 5 days, he finally did break his silence to NDTV, and this is part of what he had to say.
N capital O capital. NEVE are never in capital letters. Why didn't Mr. Volker put my name in the report or the name of the Congress party?
He does in the annexures as beneficiaries.
Not good enough. These annexures are manufactured by whom? The present government of Iraq, which has no credibility anywhere. So they are put there, and in a cavalier manner he says, well, they are there, I didn't even know. What do you mean? You are maligning one of the greatest political, democratic, secular political parties in the world in this manner? So and you expect us to take it down, lying down, and
all right, you're maligning one of the greatest democratic political parties. Do you expect us to take it lying down? So in a sense, the party seems to be taking the line, Sapan, that it's a total load of hogwash. He said, I've never seen a barrel of oil in my life. I have better things to do, which I'm sure he does, I guess. There would be another line of thinking, which is to say that even if the party had done it, let's say, hypothetically, what's wrong with it? You're not actually breaking any Indian laws, are you? Well, you're not actually accepting kickbacks. You're not in power. What is legally wrong with it? There could be that line of thinking.
Well, let the party make that.
But the party is not saying that. I know the party is not saying that, but I'm saying this in
Mr. Natwar Singh,
I know that's not your stand.
Mr. Natwar Singh errs on many counts. The first is he suggests that the annexures have been made by the present, what he calls the government under occupation in a sense, in Iraq. The records are all from SOMO, which is the nationalized oil trading, the oil company under Saddam Hussein. These were the records of which dates back to Saddam Hussein. So he's factually wrong on that point.
All right.
He's also factually wrong on the point that they don't refer to any other records, because the Volker committee quite rightly also refers, cross-checks that with bank records, in which case the incriminating evidence from the Bank of Jordan. What I want to say is that the cavalier fashion in which a UN report, you see, we've always been talking about lack of unilateralism is bad, we must all go to the UN. Now when the UN report gives an indictment, and I think Mr. Natwar Singh is ruining the fact that Mr. Volker was unaware that he was the foreign minister. Mr. Natwar Singh thinks he's the leader of the non-aligned world. Mr. Volker did not know him.
Arun, is part of what is happening right now, in a sense, this is an imperialist conspiracy. That's what some of the response seems to be. Volker linked to the Americans, perhaps CIA. Of course, there were others. There were South Africa and Switzerland as well. But is that part of the response that you are seeing?
Well, I've already answered this on day one when I raised the issue. Mr. Natwar Singh is entitled to his anti-imperialist stance, but his anti-imperialist ideology cannot enable him to convert his position into an office of profit, which in this case he has done. Now, you spoke of which are the laws violated. The Congress party would be guilty of violating the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, where a political party cannot accept money from a political source. If there were public servants heading the Congress party, they'll be guilty under the Prevention of Corruption Act. If transactions have been made outside the country and payments on their behalf by Sehgal and his company Hamadan have been made, they'll be guilty of violation of the Foreign Exchange Management Act. So there are a whole lot of laws which have been violated. Mr. Natwar Singh need not spell Mr. Natwar Singh need not spell no and never in capital. The fact is, because of their political and diplomatic stand, did they make capital out of this situation?
Okay. Number one, it's not even an allegation till now that Hamdan Exports was acting for the Congress party. Number two, I repeat, I'd like somebody to show me any minutest detail, howsoever remote, about the Congress party's activities, because as I said, a Congress party has to act through somebody. Number three, I'll give an example of spicy sensationalism and how people are just jumping into this kind of a flowing stream. We've been seeing since yesterday night and today morning a channel showing some self-appointed NRI spokesperson speaking about how he knows how the then Petroleum Minister of Iraq passed on coupons on the instructions of Saddam, and adding that a letter was carried from Ms. Sonia Gandhi. Now the fact of the matter is very interesting. The fact of the matter is that Ms. Sonia Gandhi, as President of the Congress Party, has written in 2000-2001, an official delegation went and gave a letter to Mr. Tariq Aziz. The letter talked about how in this hour of need and support, we support Iraq, and there is no connection with this at all. But somebody is taking a pot shot and the entire country is in turmoil because somebody gets up and starts speaking about this.
Those pot shots. Mr. Ram, let me just come back to you. You said that there were two substantive points where you have a problem with this. You referred to one of them. We've discussed it in some length. Let's come to the second one, sir.
The first, they are both fatal flaws which for me knock out the validity of the report. The second point being no sourcing. If you go through the section carefully, and I have, sections dealing with the so-called non-contractual beneficiaries as distinct from the contracting companies of two kinds, no source is provided. In some cases they say interview with Tariq Aziz or so, but in the case of Natwar Singh, Congress Party, Beam Singh, even Reliance Petroleum, absolutely no source is mentioned in the tables. Please check it. And therefore it's completely unsubstantiated.
Can I just answer that? At the end, I would ask Mr. Ram to look at the last page, and it says beneficiary. The name of the individuals and entities other than the named contracting party, which includes the Congress Party as well as Natwar Singh, that were named in the Ministry of Oil records as the intended beneficiary of the allocation. In some instances, the named beneficiary is an official of the contracting party.
So you're saying the source is the oil ministry. You're saying the source is the oil ministry.
And it says very explicitly, notes in the SOMO allocation records.
All right, Mr. Ram.
That's the source. That's in every page of the 60-page report that is looked at so carefully.
One second.
This does not pertain to specific naming. This is a general note which I looked at, and it's very vague. It does not amount to relevant sourcing at all.
Can I just,
in any case,
one second.
Let's get Abhishek, come back to you.
When you don't have a proceeding resembling a judicial or a quasi-judicial proceeding, you must at least publish volume 2.
Okay, but
which is the details.
There is not even a report. What is the fact that we don't know the full details of, but what we have been led to believe, and that actually if you go through the report.
He's asking very specific things. Sujit, answer that. There's no sources. That's what he's saying. A, you haven't contacted them for a defense, and B,
and that's what I'm coming to. That's what I'm coming to.
All right.
According to the Volcker report, and indeed the entire report has, of those people that responded to their queries, they have a whole discussion of what their response was, Boutros Ghali, the former UN, etc., etc., and they said that they sent out notices that these people or parties' names would be, and it's an interesting question, who does it come to? Does it come to you or when it's a Congress Party? But they sent out letters notifying people that their names will be mentioned in this report, and they can choose to reply or not reply.
These are,
and we've also
but they're saying that they didn't get the notice.
No, it's a very simple point.
That Mr. Jagat Singh admitted somewhere that he did get some notice. Why Mr. Jagat Singh should get a notice is very intriguing, because his name is not there unless he's speaking on behalf of his father.
Let's solve it in 2 minutes. Mr. Volcker, for the first time we heard yesterday, claims that a notice was sent. Mind you, he doesn't say a notice was sent to Congress Party. He makes a general statement sent to everybody. Mr. Volcker has to only produce a copy of the notice. It'll give you the date, to whom it is addressed, what is the address. Nothing is done. And we have tried on day one. How can you do this?
The report is not about the Congress Party alone. It is refers to all the bent deals which were done by the Saddam Hussein government.
Surely we are talking in the last 1 week of the Congress Party. We are not talking of the Russian foreign minister in India. We are not talking of the French mayor in India. And secondly, let me tell you very clearly, this report is worth not the paper it is written on unless volume 2 exists.
Okay,
or
now
one sec.
Before I take another break, Arun, I'm going to give you one last question. He mentioned Russia, he mentioned France. Are we in India paying more attention to this than the other countries seem to be? Because by and large, most of the other countries that have been named in this are not giving it the attention that we are here in India.
That is not true. That is not true. Number one.
Well, let me tell you, Russia, after initially criticizing the report, has issued a domestic inquiry. South Africa, Australia, Switzerland have a domestic inquiry. And to Abhishek's great point, what is the link between Hamadan and the Congress Party? The connection is not merely Mr. Jagat Singh's friendship with Mr. Andy Sehgal. The connection also is that against contract number M/10/57, which is the Congress party contract, the payments in Bank of Jordan against that number have been deposited by Hamadan. That's the link.
There's no documentation.
All right, fine.
In their defense, they say there's no documentation. There are record numbers. There's a source of the record.
That file number is actually a figment of Mr. Volker's imagination.
It is, as far as the Congress party is concerned, for a
It is as far as the Congress party is
reason.
concerned, but it is as far as anyone else
If you
is
try to understand Mr. Shopan Dashgupta and not presuppose what you want to prove, there is and there must be a contract number. There must be an entry. There must be a payment.
Okay.
But where is the Congress party linked apart from a table saying Congress party? If I say that Mr. Vikram Chandra in so-and-so account, there is no link with Mr. Vikram Chandra.
He has omitted the name of Mr. Natwar Singh.
Is here. Where was Mr. Rajiv Gandhi's name on any contract or anything when he was accused on the Bofors?
That's an interesting
which he led the investigation of.
That's why.
So where was it?
And that's why after 24 years, Bofors was quashed.
I'm trying to get you gentlemen to take a quick...
conveniently omitted the name of Mr. Natwar Singh from his denials.
Yeah, I'm in fact a bit intrigued by that. I'll come to that. The Congress party's reaction, threats to sue the United Nations.
Denied the existence of Mr. Natwar Singh.
Why is he not talking?
And the spokesperson for the Congress party refuses.
Dr. Balla, one second. Gentlemen, let's take a break at this point. Why is he not mentioning Mr. Natwar Singh's name in all of this? And the rest of the Congress party's response to this. We'll come to that when we return in just a couple of minutes. Don't go away anywhere.
Difficult market which we could have gone in. The people are so very conscious. What we came to know that people travel in groups of 8, 10s. The whole society comes to shop together. They share the rickshaw bhada to our nearest Anapai. They know the product price of every product in the wholesale market as well as in the retail market. So we thought it would be the most challenging market. So what we can do more for these customers. And when we introduced our food bazaar, we created a chakki in that so that people can buy wheat and they can ground it, because Ahmedabad people used to hold wheat and rice for years, one year together. So we had to break that whole thing and to bring in the freshness. So we built in a pressurizing plant inside so that they can make the Srikhand fresh. We gave them fresh ghee which was made in front of them. I think this was an insight we learned out of Ahmedabad, now which we have replicated all across the country.
You're going to be in Bangalore as well now. Have you had similar insights in Bangalore, which I would imagine a more cosmopolitan and general audience?
Even in Bombay, now we have done a study on Dharavi, wherein we have gone into Dharavi houses, looked at the sizes of the house. We are getting into the home business. So was to understand how people live in small houses and what do they aspire to have and what do they want. So we have to do studies even in cosmopolitan market. Bangalore was another study which we did. Bangalore was growing in terms of the IT and the BPO workers. So we have to get into the BPOs to understand how a BPO worker runs, how he spends money and how they want to lead an aspirational life. I think that was a very interesting experience.
Are small homes a big market opportunity for retail stores like yourself?
We have to look at what are the small homes and what are the furniture they would require, because what we found out was what small homes require is a functional furniture, wherein they want a single multi-purpose furniture, wherein that can be a cupboard, that can also be a TV stand, that can be a mirror in that, that can be a dressing table. So they don't have so much of space, but they still aspire to have a television, they still aspire to have a cupboard, they still aspire to have a dining table. So we have to cater to the needs of this customers also.
So I guess one conclusion is that while there is a sort of homogenization of urban India across cities or across towns,
I don't agree that
it's only up to a certain point.
It's up to a certain point. We are getting there, but we have to go through the process of making them go through what we want them to go through. I think we'll all converge at a point. But
a typical sort of metro consumer today is also attracted to brands. But are you saying that even so that customer comes and shops with the same brand, you need to connect with him in a manner that is somewhat local?
I think the way we look at brand is only an identity or a name which connects to the consumer or for which he can come in again and again. I think brand is taken, is been taught so much in B schools that people take brand as the biggest thing, and brand is like God. We don't treat.
Obviously, you can't sue the UN, you can't sue the Volcker Committee report, it's counterproductive. But you can demand through fair play and ask to see the evidence, ask to see the basis.
Why
it's no use saying it's in SOMO,
right,
or the ministry and so on. We have to look at the specifics.
Okay.
No doubt the money, the surcharges were paid into those accounts.
There's a huge
Abhishek,
what is the link between about what we're proposing to do? A huge amount. We have said a very simple thing. This legal notice and laughing off as to how a UN can be sued and how there are privileges is all a complete misunderstanding. We have said, look, you have named us. According to us, we received no notice. We have had no procedure. You have no data. However, as a responsible government, we want to get to the bottom of this. As a responsible party, we want to get to the bottom of this. Please furnish to us what details you have on the basis of which you have said.
That's the legal notice.
That's the legal notice, number one. Number two, if you don't come back to us with that, it means you have nothing, then apologize. Number three, if you come back to us with material, we reserve our right to take further legal action depending on the material disclosed. That's a very logical, simple thing to say.
Arun, do you find that logical?
People are talking about immunity of the UN.
Well, I find it completely illogical. I find that completely illogical. The Congress party may do what it wants to do, but it is the primary responsibility of the government of India to initiate action. It is the fair name of India which has been sapped, not merely the Congress party. And therefore the Congress party must, the government of India must launch a proper investigation as per law. Letters of request for aiding it in this investigation have to be sent to Jordan, to Iraq, to the United States, to Switzerland. Concerned people in India, I refer to Saigal and others, have to be interrogated as to how they deposited money in Jordan against the Congress party contracts. Now it is this investigation that brings out the truth.
The government of India has not ruled out anything. The government of India has said that before we can go to step 2.
Is your probe going to follow through?
I'm not the government of India. I'm not the government of India. They have a spokesperson and they have a person in the Prime Minister's office who you can check up with. But the government of India in an official statement has said that we cannot go to step 2 unless we get some material from you. So we have said, get us the material and on that will depend the further actions. The problem today is that in this 1 week time, before any material is there, everybody is coming to a final conclusion. And remember, in the report he has, there are large texts and paragraphs which actually give reasons about other persons other than the Congress party and other than Mr. Natwar Singh.
Again talking about the
Mr. Singhvi is quite right that supportive evidence must be supplied. And I think it's in the national interest that we should see what these bank accounts say. And I think it's very important. But pending that, it's a very, very serious point that a sitting external affairs minister of this country has been shown to have been compromised. Does he have the moral, ethical, the political right to continue to represent India in international forums? This is the point.
You see, I think it's all very easy. I think it's all very easy. If Swapan is right, and I think is right, then does the Congress party have the moral, ethical right in order to continue?
All right. 2 points. First of all,
happily, the Congress party and its ministers are not governed by subjective adjectives of ethical morality and other things. Based on a cavalier report, that means that tomorrow anybody in the world publishes a report, doesn't know natural justice, doesn't ask you, doesn't involve you, publishes a report, has no material, and everybody must resign. The government of India will destabilize. Just for a minute, reverse the situation. One of your committees, the UN appoints one of us here to do a committee report, and you make a similar observation without supporting evidence against the the Secretary of State of USA. You expect him to resign? Don't lose your balance. Don't lose your balance.
That's evidence. Why are you presuming there is no supportive evidence?
Okay, why are you presuming that
you just want the supportive evidence? Don't presume there isn't.
1 minute, Swapan, the assumption is just the other way around. You first produce the evidence, then ask for the resignation. You are going the other way around. You are first saying resign, we'll get the supporting evidence later on. What kind of procedure is this?
Mr. Ram, do you think there's a demand which are being made, Natwar Singh should resign? There's a second view that Natwar Singh perhaps being made a bit of a scapegoat. What about the culpability of the entire Congress party? And then of course the view which is being made by Abhishek Singhvi that there's no evidence for any of this. So how on earth can you ask for anybody's resignation until, as he says, the supporting evidence is produced? What's your take on all this?
Naturally the opposition will try to exploit this, but looking at it objectively as an investigative journalist, and there's no comparison with Bofors. There we looked closely at the documents. They were contested, but we looked at the specifics. Here, there's absolutely no sourcing. There is no due process or the procedure as accepted by the committee. There's absolutely no case, morally speaking or legally speaking or politically speaking, to ask anyone to step down at this point. But you do not cover up. Please look for the go deeper into it.
Don't cover up. Look deeper. Look deeper. Right, Mr. Ram, thank you so much for having joined us in a big fight. Arun, you are launching an agitation to demand this resignation. Is that a correct, I think, to do at this particular stage until more facts and figures are out? Or should you be just asking for an agitation to get a further probe done?
I think you have a huge amount of preliminary evidence which has come in, and the preliminary evidence is that there have been oil coupons issued to Mr. Natwar Singh and the Congress party, and there have been unsavory transactions which Mr. Volker has taken note of. You also have an evidence of the government of India, the Prime Minister of India, which I am charging with a sense of responsibility, who without going into the matter, without investigating into the matter, decides to give a clean chit on day one. What does the opposition do under these circumstances? Swapan is very right when he says the External Affairs Minister of India lacks legitimacy in representing India on an international fora in the face of these allegations.
All right, fine. Thank you. Gentlemen, I have to take another break at this point because I want to give the audience a chance to come in on this. Let's know what the audience thinks about all of this. We'll find out when we come back in the next round. Hello and welcome to The Big Fight. We're looking at the fallout of the Volker Committee report. Time now for the audience round, which we call Ringside. Before I take any of your comments, a quick snap poll. You've got those placards. Green means yes, red means no. How many of you think that the Volker Committee report has found enough evidence of things that are wrong? How many of you feel that? Majority probably saying yes. How many of you think that Natwar Singh should resign? All right, again a majority probably saying yes, but there are enough people who feel no. All right, some quick comments from you. The gentleman there.
I want to ask Mr. Manu Singhvi. I agree that there needs to be more probe into it before final conclusions are made. But tell me, sir, what would Mr. Volker gain out of it? He's not the opposition member. He's not the NDA. What would he gain if there?
You will notice that as far as I am concerned, I have made no personal allegation against Mr. Volker. I don't believe in it, nor have I talked of imperialism or other issues.
Okay.
I am simply saying one thing, that the country doesn't have to go into a turmoil and a spin merely because a report is there which on the face of it has followed no procedure. Let's just keep our sense of balance, wait for a few days, get the information we've asked for and then react.
Okay,
that's all that I'm saying.
All right, fine. Gentleman there.
Yeah, actually this, I go with Ram totally, but basically 2 points. The first point is the data. Two things are involved. Oil is not the only thing. Oil and food, both are there. The data has lot of problems. If you see the oil pricing and then correlate, the data doesn't match. Second, the issue is perhaps instead of discussing the oil coupons and all, we should have discussed food, which is not there. And people who are coming here without knowing the background of the whole calculation, they are messing it up.
All right, fine. Gentlemen here.
Why Congress party is simply not saying that it got gifts from Saddam Hussein, who was friend of India, who was ruler then. The thing has gone wrong because America did not like it, and today we are playing as puppets of America. We got it as gift of friendship with Saddam Hussein. What is wrong in it? And one more thing, I would like to ask Mr. Singhvi. He is talking of notice, he is talking of evidence. Supreme Court when it said the dissolution of Bihar Assembly was unconstitutional, what Congress did.
All right, fine.
So let us not talk of moral.
All right, one sec.
A quick answer.
What's wrong with it is what
I think it's very important for the audience to understand as to why this thing has happened. This thing has happened because the US invaded Iraq. Nobody in 2000, 2001 thought this would happen. That's why the records have come to public. Second, on the procedure, I just want to point out the investigation cost $34 million, took over 16 months, and employed some 75 staff.
All right.
Okay. So there was to say that no procedure was followed.
Arun, the view that was expressed, the view that was expressed out here, what is wrong? I mean, I think that's a question which a lot of people seem to be asking in general, is that why is such a big issue being made about this? You said that there are lots of Indian laws that have been broken. What do you think is fundamentally so wrong that this should be blown up in this manner?
I think it's a question of political and political immorality. It's political immorality that you take a stand which you may be otherwise entitled to take, but to be paid by a discredited regime for taking the stand, I think is politics and diplomacy at its worst ever ebb.
All right, fine. Gentlemen there.
My question is, why does the media and so many intellectuals around the globe give so much room so that the truth is not able to come out right, and we give opportunity to best-selling authors like Tom Clancy and John Grisham to write best-selling authors and make millions on a second go?
All right, fine. Lady there just behind you.
Why?
Yeah, I would like to ask Mr. Singhvi that shouldn't there be a national policy about such issues where a person of national identity is involved, that whether to step down or not, so that the opposition should not
a uniform policy? Manu?
A uniform policy for everybody would be fine, but the point is how do you apply the uniform policy? I think there are two sides to it. You cannot equally destabilize government's functioning administration merely on allegations.
Charges?
The face of it are faulty. It's a question of an allegation.
Mr. Singhvi, I think I want to answer this. Want you to answer this. Who has destabilized government?
Can I answer this?
What has happened? Yes. What has happened, in fact, since the report came out, is that Mr. Natwar Singh has made his own personal troubles a matter of national policy. That is precisely what he's done, which is why it is so dangerous. That is why it
what has happened, Mr. Dasgupta, actually is that there has been a highly cavalier report by an investigation committee which has not given any opportunity. There is nothing, no substance in it, and you want cabinet ministers to resign and you want the government to do all kinds of things without asking for further information.
Why did they target Congress and Mr. Volker? According to your viewpoint, they have targeted Congress and Mr. Natwar Singh.
No. Okay, the gentleman next to you. It is not for one more question from the Congress party to say why. It is for Mr. Volker or those who allege to say how and why. Not for me.
Natwar Singh believes there is a reason why he's been targeted.
That's all right.
I think Singhvi protests a bit too much. He says nothing against Mr. Volker. He has the deepest respect, but he calls it a shoddy report, a cavalier report, and every other adjective in the book.
I think I'm going to try and squeeze in one more comment. The gentleman there in the blue. Top.
Yeah. I have a question. The simple thing is that Congress party is going to conduct an investigation. Now, a last question is, can you give a deadline when would all this be closed from your end? When are you going to conduct it?
Deadline can be given after we receive a response to our preliminary simple question to the Volker committee. Please furnish to us what you should have published in volume 2.
Okay, fine. We have to take a break. We have to take a break. All of you are going to get a chance.
2 days ago.
All of you are going to get a chance to have your final say in the next section. All of you are going to get a chance to have your final say in the last section. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Welcome back to the big fight in the aftermath of the Volker Committee report. We've heard all sorts of statements from everyone out here, all sorts of arguments as to why the nation should now think about what has to be done next, demands for further evidence. Time now for everyone to get a final comment in on this. Mr. Ram has left us, but everyone else gets exactly 45 seconds in the final countdown. All right, Arun Jaitley, I'm going to start with you. 45 seconds and your clock starts now.
I think it's a very serious matter. Serious because it relates to probity in public life. It relates to issues where political parties take a stand, and in case they are going to be internationally funded for that stand, it's going to be Indian politics at its worst. And therefore the Volker committee has presented a very strong prima facie case why this was done, and I think it's extremely important that the government of India should investigate it. The Congress is finding a very convenient methodology. We'll write to Volker. In case Volker doesn't reply, the matter is closed. The Congress is irrelevant, its investigations are irrelevant. It's the government of India through its investigative agencies which must globally collect the evidence and prosecute the people who are involved in this. Politically, it is for the Prime Minister to punish them.
All right, Sujit.
Yeah,
actually I want to make a balanced view which
I want to make 3 points as to, first, why did Iraq do this? Iraq did this in order to win friends and influence people. That's what it allocated profits to the individuals as well as companies involved. And very specifically, and the Volker Committee reports that, it targeted governments, political parties, etc., who it thought it would influence. Number 1. Number 2, all allocations meant money. That is how they thought they'd win. Okay. Now, the question arises, why should political parties and politicians get into the act? That is the problem to me. There can be individuals getting into the act wanting to make a profit, but politicians getting into the act means their stance is compromised forever. We do not know whether the stance of the Congress party or Mr. Natwar Singh, and they are now the ruling party, they didn't think it was then, they are now the foreign minister. How can they make any statement regarding policy?
Time's up, I'm afraid.
Yeah, Vikram, I think this Volker report indicates this is a classic example of FDI in politics. This is precisely why it is not merely the Congress party which is compromised. I think what is most important in this case is that there is a name. It is not K.N. Singh, some unknown villain. It is K. Natwar Singh who is specified as this. And this person at present is at the epicenter of things. All the linkages show that he is at the epicenter. For such a person to continue, I believe, pending all the further details and investigations, such a person must go.
All right, Abhishek Singhvi.
Point number one, the report suffers from grave infirmities on the first look. A, it has followed no procedure, no notice, no adjudication. B, the report as published has nothing except one table in one line, not a single fact. Number two, this is in stark contrast to those names which have in fact been discussed in other cases, but not in the case of Congress Party or indeed Natwar Singh. Three, I think we have to keep a sense of balance, just reverse the situation. Had this been a report by an entity of the UN having Indians or any other country about a Secretary of State of America, they would of course have punished, they would of course have inquired, but they would have waited for production of data. Four, what we are doing today in the Congress Party and the Government of India is asking for that data. Please be reassured, my friend Mr. Arun Jaitley is completely misunderstood the situation to think that there will be no inquiry. The inquiry cannot proceed. It must follow upon the furnishing of that data which should have been there. And last and most important, not till now for the last 45 minutes, 1 hour, have I got an answer to my first question. Please give me the data about the Congress Party. Give it from there, give it from there. I don't have it.
Thank you all so much for having joined us. We have to leave it there for the moment. Do join us again on The Big Fight next week.